Thad McCotter is already a congressman. He's a congressman out of Detroit, Michigan, although this morning he's in Seoul, South Korea. He is there apparently not just visiting our troops, but looking at some business opportunities for United States companies in South Korea, and I suppose the other way around as well. It's good to have him join us. Congressman, good morning.
Good morning, Jeff. Good evening from Seoul.
Oh, all right. Well, I appreciate you joining us as your internal clock is all over the place. What exactly are you guys doing in Seoul, South Korea this morning?
We're on a very whirlwind tour. We started off in Taipei, Taiwan, to check on our ally there to see the situation, just meet with President Ma, who's just reinaugurated again, and see many of the problems that they're facing looking at a communist nation across the straits. We came in today to Seoul, South Korea. We're going to be meeting with the government leaders, business leaders, to get the situation with a communist nation on their border, one that, as you know, is very difficult, very trying on the patience of the civilized world in the present time.
Exactly. And how are the South Koreans dealing with this? I mean, it's been a series of demented despots in North Korea, and the latest guy seems crazier than the last guy.
Yes, and that was a concern a lot of us had. Look, the people of South Korea, just as the people of Taiwan, are very brave people. They're very, very determined people. They know the challenges that they face. They know that they are the front line of liberty in Asia. That there are two models, Jeff, in the world today. There is the authoritarian, totalitarian model of communism with its new wrinkles,
right,
and there remains freedom and self-government and free markets. And so I think that when you look at the people of South Korea, they know what's across the border, and they know what it's going to take to continue to preserve their liberty.
Now, you have a piece of legislation. You were voting to make sure that Iran did not get nuclear weapons. We need to talk about the importance of that, and also the fact that North Korea is looking at all sorts of nuclear weapons and nuclear weapon sales, right?
Right. The sanctions can work, if this world is serious about it, if you can continue to support the Green Revolution, if the economic conditions decline to the point where the Green Revolution actually can succeed in deposing the murderous butchers who so violently put it down, with a sadly muted response from the United States. With North Korea, we've seen a country that cares more about nuclear weapons than their own people's nutrition. The standard of living in that country can't be degraded any further than it already has under this insane communist regime. But what the problem for both nations is, and both North Korea, as you know, and Iran are very closely interwoven, is that you have communist China and you have Putin's Russia that continue to play footsies with them. And the United States has to make it clear that the bilateral relationship between ourselves, communist China, and Putin's Russia are going to be severely affected if they do not get on board with the rest of the civilized world and making sure that both Iran and North Korea are no longer going to be pursuing nuclear weapons.
Let's talk about trade for a couple of moments, because obviously, as you mentioned, this is a trade mission as well. What do we do? What do we do to increase trade with Korea, South Korea, and benefit both nations?
Well, we just passed the free trade agreement, which in many ways is highly supported by the agricultural community. Michigan has a very strong one, as well as people like the auto companies from my hometown of Detroit and the UAW. Because one of the problems that manufacturing in the United States has had and agriculture's had are the barriers, the non-tariff barriers to entry into markets. And the hope was that this free trade agreement, which I did support, will wind up making it easier for the greatest workers and the greatest entrepreneurs in the world, Americans, to actually enter new markets. And so we want to see how that's going to be implemented, how the view of it is at the present time here in Korea, both for themselves and for us in a reciprocal fashion. But we want to make sure that you don't see that now the free trade agreements have passed, that somehow those non-tariff barriers just manage to morph into something new to prevent the entry of American goods here.
Exactly. Well, Thad, I appreciate you checking in. Enjoy your time as you're traveling throughout South Korea. That is Congressman Thad McCotter. A couple of very different points there, but I think very cogent and important ones. One is the business front. What do you do to help American businesses compete overseas? I mean, that's essentially the essence of this free trade agreement, this new free trade agreement with South Korea. And the second part, and I don't know, maybe it's the more important part now that I think about it, has to do with nuclear weapons. weapons has to do with the crazy current leader of North Korea, who, of course, is nothing like the crazy old leader of North Korea or the crazy older leader of North Korea, because they care more about nuclear weapons than they do about their own people, their own citizens being able to eat. We need a tough man in the White House once again, and, well, obviously we don't have it.